Throughout our journey in the Red Dead Redemption series, there's one man who pursues the Van der Linde gang, and later John Marston, relentlessly. Federal agent of the Bureau of Investigation and former Pinkerton detective Edgar Ross. First finding Arthur Morgan and a very young Jack Marston when under the command of Agent Milton, he begins to show his true colours. Standing silently and doing nothing more at first other than raising his shotgun, he mutters only one single sentence.
"Enjoy your fishing, kid, while you still can."
His role in the scene seems nothing more than backup or intimidation, and even though Agent Milton, his commanding officer, speaks with somewhat respect throughout the entire interaction, Edgar Ross shows no respect, even going as far as to try and intimidate a child, giving us an indication as to the persona of this man. Later, during the Battle of Shady Belle cutscene, we see both Agent Milton and Ross bravely enter the Van der Linde camp. During when Milton and Dutch have a heated exchange of words, Ross stays silent throughout this entire interaction. Once again, he's just there as backup. During the bank robbery in Saint Denis, when Milton has captured Hosea right before the execution, whilst other Pinkerton agents have their guns trained on the bank itself, Edgar Ross waits patiently behind Milton, watching the Hosea interaction rather than the bank, all the while still staying silent. This seems a recurring theme throughout Red Dead Redemption 2, and even when the Pinkerton duo are conversating with the oil tycoon Leviticus Cornwall, only the lead commander is verbal. But why does Ross stay silent so often? Is he there simply to show strong arm, or does he have another agenda? After the death of Agent Milton, in the final mission of the main story, Edgar Ross assumes command of the Pinkerton Detective Agency and can be heard shouting orders to his men during the final attack on Beaver's Hollow. This is when he's been most vocal throughout the entire game. If you watch the relationship between Ross and Milton, the pair don't often exchange words with one another. Ross seems to be simply letting Milton make enemies while he sits quietly in the background, awaiting his moment. That moment came when he took over Milton's position. Was that his goal all along? Let his commander make waves and swoop in upon his death? After the epilogue is finished, we're treated to cinematic credits showing us Edgar Ross with Archie Fordman in tow as part of the newly formed Bureau of Investigation. The pair are now on the hunt for the surviving members of the Van der Linde posse of outlaws. Firstly, they discover the frozen corpse of Michael Bell, deceased after both John and Dutch had put him down. Then, in the Smithfield Saloon in Valentine, where they question both Morris Payton and one of the working girls, whom we can only identify as Anastasia's friend from the Americans at Rest bar fight with Tommy. Next, they intercept and question a wagon driver for information on the outskirts of the town of Rhodes, before finally finding Beecher's Hope, the home of John Marston and his family. This takes us over to Red Dead Redemption 1, set 4 years later in 1911. Similar to Agent Milton's actions in Red Dead Redemption 2, Edgar Ross too kidnaps Abigail Marston, in addition to her eldest son, Jack, right from the Marston home of Beecher's Hope. His purpose in doing this is to use reformed Van der Linde gang member and husband and father, John Marston, to track down the remaining survivors of his former life in either a capture or kill mission. This includes Javier Escuela, Bill Williamson, and founder of the gang, Dutch Van der Linde. In the opening segment of this title, Edgar Ross and Archie Fordman of the Bureau escort John Marston through the town of Blackwater to the train station, setting him off on his journey. During this, he continues his same previous ways of staying silent, even though this time he's in charge, although this is possibly just for narrative purposes. As John continues on his journey, tracking down his former associates, we don't see the Bureau agents again until much later in the title, after John has either captured or killed Javier Escuela. During this, Ross lets Agent Fordman do most of the talking and only speaks a few lines of sarcasm towards John in a condescending manner as he does so.
Mr. Marston, fancy seeing you down here. I must say it's a pleasant surprise to see you.
You've done well, Mr. Marston. Now, Javier here gets to see how far the hand of justice can reach. Come on, you. Get in the damn automobile.
Can we assume one of my commitments is cleared?
Unfortunately, nothing is cleared, John, until your obligations are met. We need you to find Williamson, then head to Blackwater as quick as you can. We have reason to believe that Dutch Van der Linde is in the area.
Oh, your wife sends her regards.
When John finally arrives in Blackwater, shortly after capturing Bill Williamson, he's met at the local police station by the agents once more.
Mr. Marston, so glad to see you. How was your journey?
Where's my wife and son?
Being well looked after. Well looked after.
I want to see them.
Mr. Ross wants to speak with you. We've had some important developments.
You want me to take out a gun and blow a fucking hole in your head right here? Right now? You want that?
Mr. Marston.
You want that?
Mr. Marston, I ask you to calm down.
Why? Why? I did what you asked. I got you Williamson and Escuela. It's over. Stop playing games with me.
No one's playing games with you, Mr. Marston. But if we were to play some games, there'd be some interesting ones we could play.
Thanks, sir.
Like hanging you for murder, or confiscating all of your property, like that little farm of yours, or having you put in an electric chair. Those are the sort of games we could play. But we choose to play a different game. So calm down and play along with us.
Where's my wife?
You know, I forget, but I hear it's very nice this time of year. Mr. Marston, please, I've never insulted your meager intelligence. Do not insult mine. We've done this little deal for your freedom in exchange for all your men from your old gang. You gave us Williamson and Escuela. We still don't have Vanderlyn, but now we know where he is.
Then go and shoot him.
No, sir. I want you to shoot him for me. And then I'll let you be. The last thing I want to do is make martyrs out of all these people. He could be killed by some petty squabble by another lowlife.
We believe Vanderlyn is holed up with a group of renegades near the wreck of the Serendipity riverboat.
Ah, yes. Another group of renegades. Obviously, the first group, your group, has, shall we say, been disbanded?
Disbanded.
Anyway, Mr. Ford and Mr. Marston, shall we go? Oh, Mr. Marston, your wife and son are doing well. Let's both try to ensure things stay that way. Okay?
After you, sir.
Fordman seems to be more the professional of the two in this partnership, similar to how Agent Milton was in Red Dead Redemption 2, and even though Ross is more vocal this time, it's still nothing more than belittling words towards John, mocking both his former life and his family. The drive towards the wreck of the Serendipity is just more of Ross insulting John and making threats towards its freedom, nothing new. The same goes for the journey back. The next time we see Agents Ross and Fordman is in the mission titled, Great Men Are Not Always Wise.
What a pleasant surprise, Mr. Marston. An informant just told us some interesting news. Our mutual friend, Mr. Vanderlyn, is about to pay call on his bank manager. What do you say to having a little financial discussion with the fella? This way.
Let's get up on the roof. We'll have a clear shot at them from there. That door is the only way in and out of the building, so cover it tight. You see those horses to the left by the building across the street? Dutch's boys hitched them there. They'll have to run that way to make their escape. Don't start shooting until they're out in the open. If we spook them, they might retreat back and hole up inside. Don't shoot till I give you the signal. Keep your sights trained on that bank door. Marston, head into the bank with Hopkins and Manning. Get Dutch. Be careful. There may be some innocent people there.
We can take them!
Knowing that the situation is potentially dangerous, Ross sends Marston and a few others into the bank, showing how little he cares for his men. Even though the group attempt to chase down Dutch's men, they find themselves empty-handed.
Where's Dutch, Marston?
He got away.
Scared to shoot him? Too much to handle?
When the opportunity presents itself, I'll put a bullet in him, don't you worry. Won't like myself for doing it, but I'll do it.
Ah, good man, good man. You know, at the end of this, you'll probably get a medal. I know I shall.
Ross shows his intentions a little more here. He's in it all for the credit, whilst his men do all the work. In the following interaction with the Bureau, Ross is a lot more insulting towards John, continuing to be condescending to him, all the while giving a speech about life before the trio join the army and head after Dutch.
What do you want, Marston?
My family. I've done what you asked.
No, you haven't. This is the land of opportunity, and I gave you the opportunity to save your family, and you failed. How could I possibly reward you?
Marston, you're a public menace. We should have had you killed.
I wish you had. But since you didn't, where's my family?
Oh, spare me the noble savage fall on the sword tripe, will you, old boy? It's nauseating. You don't wish to be dead. You're an insignificant creature desperately clinging on to life like the rest of the scum in this town. Yeah, I know it's tough. You like Dutch. He's a charming fellow. He makes sense. He's like one of those nature writers from back east. Only he takes things a tiny little step too far. Rather than just loving the flowers and the animals and the harmony between man and beast, he shoots people in the head for money and disagreeing with them.
He's a goddamn killer.
Now, I'm not a great intellect, but the metaphysical leap from admiring the flower to shooting a man in the head because he doesn't like the flower is a leap too far. So, I know it's easy. You see, me and Archer, we're the bad guys. We enforce the rules. Now, while the rules may not be perfect, they're really not so bad.
Exactly. What's the alternative?
Yeah. See, I'll tell you what the alternative is. It's not complicated. It's about one man and his gun versus another man. Sure, civilization may be dull, but the alternative, Mr. Marston, is hell.
And the way you enforce this civilization, this freedom for men to like or not like flowers, or whatever in God's name you were just talking about, is to kidnap a man's wife and son?
Well, I know there's contradictions. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, as I said, I'm not a great intellect. Now, after the debacle with the army and the bank, we have to put Mr. Vanderlyn to rest ourselves. Will you help us?
Do I have any choice?
Now that you mention it, no.
Then what was that pretty speech in aid of?
I don't rightly know, but it sure felt good saying it.
Shall we, Mr. Marston?
Let's go.
After failing to capture Dutch, Ross continues to make threats towards John's family if he doesn't do the Bureau's bidding.
Well, Mr. Marston, it seems like your mentor Dutch no longer looks quite so kindly to his student.
That man is insane.
So it seems.
I think we need to get him before sundown.
As you say, Captain. Otherwise, he'll be gone again.
And what if I say no?
Now, before I shoot you myself, let me just point out the obvious. The one person we have left that can appeal to Mr. Vanderlyn is the last person we know who knows him. Your wife.
That won't be necessary. Mr. Ross, Captain, let's go.
Ross once more sends John up front with the aid of some soldiers, just as he did at the bank. He continues to want the glory of the work that others have done for him. After the fall of Dutch Vanderlyn, Ross returns to John in a scene that just proves how cold-hearted he truly is.
So at the end, you didn't have the guts to shoot him.
The man's dead, Ross.
Sure. Can I see your gun? Trust me, it looks better in the report that way.
Where's my family?
Your wife was killed in a prison riot last week. So, I'm only joking, dear boy. They were sent back to that Scrabble ranch of yours in Beecher's Hope. They're quite safe and sound.
They better be.
Thank you, Mr. Marston, for everything. I know this wasn't easy for you, but I have to say, you've done your country proud.
Yeah, exactly. See you around, John. Try to stay out of trouble. Come on, Archer. Let's go find somebody else we can annoy.
It seems to be all over for John and his family as they appear to be left to live in peace, but Edgar Ross has other ideas. Continuing on from his days as a Pinkerton detective agent under Milton, he still vows to putting down every last surviving member of the Van der Linde gang, once and for all. No words are spoken as Ross and his men walk away from Beecher's Hope, leaving the corpse of John Marston behind. It would be some years later before we finally get justice on Agent Ross. John and Abigail's son, Jack, would track him down through his family.
Excuse me, you Edgar Ross?
Do I know you?
Forgive me for startling you, sir, but I have a message for you. My name is Jack Marston. You knew my father.
I see. I remember your father.
I've come for you, Ross.
And you, boy, have sure as shit found me.
You killed my father.
Your father killed himself with the life he lived.
You killed him. I saw you.
You keep saying that.
You sent him to do your dirty work. Then you shot him like a dog.
And I'll shoot you like one too, you little piece of trash. Now get out of here before I kill you as well.
I ain't going nowhere, old man.
So what makes the man of Agent Edgar Ross? For starters, going back to his Pinkerton days, I believe he felt no loyalty to Agent Milton. I understand that Milton was in charge, but he didn't even bother to speak up for most parts. He let Milton do all the talking and take the flak of the gangs, directing their anger more towards him than Ross. This seemed intentional, as soon as Milton was taken out of the equation, Ross took the front role, expressing himself more. He didn't show a great deal of initiative prior to this, prompting the thought that he was waiting for the inevitable death of Milton after making enemies of the Van der Linde gang. Kidnapping the wife and child of John was a despicable move. There's no real reason that himself, his fellow Pinkertons, the Blackwater Police Department and the United States military couldn't collectively do what John Marston was able to do primarily through his own accord. This is going back to him having everyone else do his work while taking all the glory. From the moment we first encounter him when Arthur was taking Jack fishing, this was an early indication of the man he truly was, making threats towards a young child and then later kidnapping the same child alongside his mother. He's incredibly manipulative towards those around him. We often see this with Fordman, whom he lets do all of the work, similar to how he allowed Milton to, even though this time round, he's the one who's in charge. He's also very condescending, allowing himself a god complex. John is a lot smarter than he's given credit for by the man, and it seems that Ross knows this, so to counter, he belittles him as much as possible. And lastly, he's most certainly not a man of his word, promising John that if he fulfilled his duties, he'd be allowed to return to Beecher's Hope with his family and live the rest of his days in peace. Well, that was just blatant trickery and manipulation to get someone to do his work for him before disposing of them once and for all. He cares not for those around him, and he's only interested in having his name in the newspaper. If you enjoyed today's video and wish to see more like it, you all know what to do. If you're new here and aren't subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing so. Is there a particular character or story from either Red Dead Redemption or the Grand Theft Auto series you wish to see? Please let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you feel you really enjoyed the content, you can become a channel member by using the link in the video description, where you'll get access to more content than others. Thank you all for watching. You've been listening to Phil of Philby Gaming, and I'll see you in the next one.